Namaskaram. In Mahabharatam, we have just started the story of Nala and Damayanti. Last day, we started with the golden swans who were caught by Nala, and they promised him to talk about him to Damayanti so that she will fall in love with him. And they kept their promise, and in turn they promised Damayanti also that they would talk to Nala and make him love Damayanti. And as the result of their talking to Damayanti first and then to Nala, the two fell in love with each other. And then the marriage of Damayanti was thought about by her father. The princess usually have an arrangement, a way by which they choose their own husbands from among invited kings. Invited kings who would sit around in a hall, and the princess would go around with a garland, and after listening to the name and who the king is, she would choose one. And we had reached so far, and a smart boy who listened to the story, who is just still not 7, he gave a feedback saying that, I know who Nala is going to marry. I know Damayanti will choose Nala. And it was quite interesting because we hadn't reached that much. We only talked about Swayamvara, self-choice, as a method. We will come to that hopefully today. And Damayanti's father made such arrangement. He sent words to lots of famous kings, inviting them to the hall, to his palace, and they started arriving. In that day, the only way of transport used to be chariots for kings. Most people walked, but kings had their chariots, and it used to take days. And Narada, who is a famous sage in the Puranas, Narada happened to go to heaven, and in the hall of Indra, who is the king of gods, Narada, normally when he goes, he conveys the news he has heard, and people are very keen to meet Narada because they will get news from far and near. And Indra asked, what is the news? Then Narada said, there is a news that Princess Damayanti is going to get married by Swayamvara. And she is the most beautiful princess if you take all the kingdoms. So it's an interesting news. You must go and see how beautiful she is. So from the way Narada described Damayanti, Indra got interested, and so did Agni. Agni is the god of fire. And then Yama, who is the god of death, and Varuna, who is the god of water, god of oceans and rivers. These happen to be the lords of the directions. Indra of the east, Agni of the southeast, Yama of the south, and Varuna of the west. There are 8 such directions. 4 of them were interested, and they started coming to Damayanti's palace. They, from heaven, they came by their chariots which could fly. And when they reached earth, they were driving their chariots, and they saw one chariot going ahead, so they caught up with him, and it was Nala's chariot. And they stopped, asked him to stop, and introduced themselves. They told the truth. Indra said, I am the king, Indra, the king of gods. And similarly, Agni, Yama, and Varuna, all the 4 introduced themselves and asked Nala where he was going. He said he was going for Damayanti's marriage too. And the gods asked Nala for a favor. They said, so you please do us a favor. Promise us that you will do what we ask you to do. And Nala didn't know what they were asking. They are the gods. So Nala said, could be something which he could do. So he said, all right, I promise you. And they said, we are going for Damayanti's marriage. We 4 want to marry Damayanti. It is up to her. If she chooses one of us, then we will be very happy. So, ahead of this, you please go to Damayanti and talk to her about us. Make sure she is interested in us. Talk to her in such a way. And Nala then was surprised. He said, how can I do that? Because I am myself in love with Damayanti. I want to marry her. Then the God said, no, you can't change your word now. You promised us that you will do the favor. And Nala was in 2 minds. He couldn't refuse them because he had promised them that he would do what they wanted us. But then Nala said, but I have a problem. How would I go? Damayanti's palace is well protected by gods. They will stop me definitely. If I say I want to meet Damayanti, why? Damayanti will come to the hall and she will choose whom she wants. Why should you go? They will object. They will not permit me to go in. It is well guarded. Then the god said, all right, we will give you some boons by which they will not stop you. You will have free way without anyone noticing you. Gods have all powers. So Nala agreed. And Nala went to Damayanti, to keep his promise, Damayanti. And surprisingly, there were guards standing with their weapons, but they couldn't see Nala. The doors which were closed, they opened and Nala could enter. And soon he reached Damayanti's chamber. And only when he entered the chamber, first the Damayanti's maids who were there, they saw a prince, a very handsome prince, suddenly coming. How could he come? There are guards. Did they not stop him? Or did they not see him? How could he come? But they were stricken so much by Nala's features. He was very handsome, very fair in color, tall, with strong arms, like a real hero, real warrior. So they were stunned, and they couldn't open their mouths. They looked at him with stunned faces. And then Damayanti also noticed Nala, and Damayanti was also dumbfounded. She couldn't open her mouth. She looked at Nala aghast, like that. And Nala came and introduced himself to Damayanti, saying, I am Nala, king of Vidarbha, king of Nishadha. Damayanti was the princess of Vidarbha. And I have come on behalf of the gods. 4 gods, Indra, Agni, Yama and Varuna. These 4 gods have come to marry you. And I have promised them that I will talk to you so that they will choose one of them. That Damayanti said, no, I have made up my mind that I will marry only you, Nala. But Nala said, no, say, look, how can you choose me, just a human being, when the gods want you to marry them? Damayanti said, no, I will not change my mind, I will marry you. But then Nala said, see, they may curse me because I had promised them to speak to you in their favor. But Damayanti said, okay, I will think of a way. Then Damayanti said, in the hall, when everyone is seated, you also will be there, the gods will also be there. I will move with the garland, and I will skip past the gods without choosing them. It is up to me. And then when I reach you, I will put the garland on your neck so that the blame will not fall on you. So then Nala had no objection to that. Nala said, okay, let us leave at that. Our time is up. The interesting part is yet to come, with which we shall continue the next day. There is a lot more very interesting parts in this story. Namaskaram.